Time for another edition of the Thought Project, just so you know. And today we're going to be starting out with a little song from the Cozy Coffee Shop on YouTube that is the September fall morning in a bookstore cafe ambiance with smooth jazz instrumental music to focus at work. So let's listen to a little bit of that to start. You know, it kind of reminds me of the opening to like a million different sitcoms back in the 90s, right? So I think we'll just go on ahead. I'm going to pause that song and discuss the big news today is that the Fed is going to be having a meeting. It has a live stream that's on Barron's you can watch. It'll be starting in an hour, basically, from now. And the meeting is essentially going to be talking about benchmark federal funds. There's a lot of economic projections related to it. There's been a lot of numbers that came out yesterday. The 10-year Treasury closed Tuesday at 4.37% yield and marking it the highest level since November 7th, 2007. And the meeting today is actually called the Federal Reserve Open Market Meeting. Let's do it again. Federal Reserve Open Market Committee. There'll be rate announcements later today. So if you're not in the U.S., that means that we have something going on with our Federal Reserve. They're having a meeting, and that's going to involve a lot of announcements later in the day on Wednesday, which you can look forward to. And it's important to note that banks are talking about hiking rates to 5.5% interest, despite everything that's going on as far as the mild recession and jobs in the U.S. I also want to discuss some other topics today. Let's see. It's important to note that there was basically an airplane that disappeared. So everyone's been talking about the F-35. Essentially, a Marine pilot took off on Sunday from the Joint Base in Charleston, South Carolina. There's no explanation for the issue other than a potential hacking of the jet. And this caused the pilot to make an emergency ejection. The second jet pilot, who was following in another F-35, was able to complete the exercises without having to eject. The plane was worth $80 million. Ended up crashing, it was found 80 miles from the base, and the government actually had to send a person from D.C. to the base to find it. I actually know the person who was sent down there. He's a friend of mine. He came to my birthday parties. Pictures of the guy. His job is to go find military equipment when it disappears, like a really expensive jet. So, anyways, but I'm glad they were able to find it this week, and it's sort of disturbing that somebody was able to hack it, and probably tried to take possession of it instead it crashed. So, anyways, at least it didn't end up in enemy hands, right? So that's the good news that they did actually find it. It just crashed. It's also important to note that fighting broke out in Azerbaijan, who I thought was aligned with Russia, but maybe not particularly. And they were carried out on strikes in the Nagorno-Karabakh region of Armenia on Tuesday. There's already been a ceasefire called as of today. Apparently, Azerbaijan has decided not that they aren't really aligned with anybody. They just want that territory. And so in a bizarre twist, I guess Armenia was aligned with Russia in this case, and they've been fighting for decades over the Karabakh region. And notably, Azerbaijan has been empowered by gas and oil revenues that have been higher than in the past. So they're making some money and they're feeling kind of forward and aggressive. But the ceasefire was called today. And I don't know why. That's one of those really weird situations where they're both former USSR countries, and their companionship to each other is not real. They've never really gotten along by thought of the region. So it's probably more of like a regional conflict that trying to say they line up with this group or that group or the US in either side is just really going to be impossible. But Russia, for some reason, did get involved and called a ceasefire today. So, and it's important to also note that there was a risk of a possible government shutdown, and Andrew McCarthy is currently, the Republican Party is running the U.S. House. The fiscal year is ending. Both parties are actually locked up in disagreement over costs and spending. And I just want to note for this that years ago, when I was still living in the DC area, like 10 years ago, we noted that there were problems with the House shutting down and then the Senate following to up with the federal government shutdown, potentially over budgets, right at the points where legislation would have been passed potentially to stop labor trafficking, like the issues I was dealing with. And it's unfortunate that massive legislation had to be passed in order to do that. It wasn't just me, but definitely my situation and others because of that agency out in California that's run by Kedrick that's essentially Russian. So I just wanted you to keep that in mind. There was a deal passed yesterday, later in the day, that would give the government another 30 days. So it's more than enough time for them to work things out on budgets. And I think it's really important to note that it's really not acceptable to have a government shutdown in order to stop any kind of legislation that might need to be passed at this point in order to stop further labor trafficking from happening. So the Senate Majority Leader is Chuck Schumer of the Democratic Party, and notably, the Pew Center's latest poll shows 26% of Americans hold a favorable view of Congress, meaning that 72% hold a negative view. That's close to the numbers back in 2013 when there was some of the same issues had cropped up, and I'm not around that area anymore, and certainly not dealing with the exact same issues of being forced to work for free or anything like what I went through at the time, but it looks awfully familiar. And there's no getting around it that Congress has generally lost approval over the past years of people not even wanting to be as involved in the general dynamics of it. So, and it's important to note, like California has lost 5 congressional districts or will be losing them. And this is according to state plans for the year 2030. There's a reapportionment cycle if you look at a map, and the state is losing population, especially in the LA area, compared to the number of people existing in other parts of California. I had thought that it was just because LA is expensive and difficult, uncomfortable, but I finally realized that it's actually probably a place that's even crazier and uncomfortable to live than Charlottesville was for me. And you need to note that because there's a huge amount of organized crime around the DC area, especially related to agencies that I've discussed, two quote fake Hollywood agencies, one being a fake fund group. And it's important to know that they have gone to the lengths of trying to shut down actually shutting down congressional activity and the federal government in an effort to continue their operations and legal trafficking out in LA or even across the country, because it seems like you can't really get them to actually stay where they belong on Hollywood and not bother the rest of us. But just letting you know, because there was way too many of them coming out to the DC area and attacking people. So, and I want to note also for you more carefully on this, there's been a string of break-ins and literal walk-up and theft stealing from Macy's, for example, out in Los Angeles and other stores, especially in some of the open malls. And you have to know a person cannot just simply walk up to you and steal from you. And they really can't just walk up to your store and do that. It's pretty clear that signet systems are being used in this, and it's pretty clearly part of what the Russian mafia actually does. Now, before you get too upset about that, you have to consider that there's 2 different paths. That one is that the police know what's happening and are letting it happen. The other is that they know what's happening and can't stop it. I'm not sure what to tell you about that, except that it doesn't seem to really be acceptable in any case for someone to simply be able to break in, use a signals intelligence system, and begin stealing from stores, or anywhere really in the U.S. And that's kind of a point I've had to make. It's not okay to say, oh, well, there's just crime. No. And it's not okay for people to say around there, it's just the culture, it's just Chinatown. No, it's not acceptable. And I want you to know something I learned when I was in DC area, which is that I did not know this, but a lot of actual Hollywood celebrities engage in massive violent crimes and attack people and attack stores and steal and all kinds. It doesn't just like stories of P. Diddy and J-Lo like beating up and attacking people and stealing music or scripts or whatever. They really do actively go out and hit people with bats and break into stores and steal merchandise. And, it's important to understand all this because these are supposed to be our celebrities, and they're just not, as part of what has caused this mass movement away from anything related to Hollywood. I think we used to call it commercial, actors that we didn't like. But the point about all of it is that Patty, Dan, Kendrick, Cersei and Wilhelm all have done this. And you need to look at the fact that some of your actual investors and executives that are part of Hollywood, it's really not a fun story to tell, but the reality is it isn't just that the crime is tangentially related. Charlize Theron really went out on, it was supposed to be a fundraiser earlier this year, and yelled at the audience that she was going to kill them unless they gave her money. Oprah Winfrey and The Rock being involved in the fires in Lahaina and almost 1,000 people being dead is not a joke. It's not an accident. It's very real. Even I had a hard time dealing with the concept that some of these people actually go out in public and mug people. Well, they do. That's something the federal government explained to me when I was living in the DC for 19 years. Like, it's very real. So, and finally, I would also note for you that there's a very real problem with just the reason the populations are going down in the LA area and some parts of California really suspiciously is it isn't actually people leaving, it's actually people being killed. It's actually there's such a high murder rate that people are just ending up dead and not surviving out there. So I'm really happy for my friends who have left the area. I feel bad for the ones that had to go out there for work, but that's what's actually been going on. It's just turned this really murderous, dangerous place. It's such to the point that it's changing the congressional map and seats. I need to note, Bijou Phillips has now come on the media and called her divorce from Danny Masterson from the last episode. Remember Danny Masterson? He's on that 70s show. He's a rapist, murderer, whatever, likes to beat people up. He's mean. She's called her divorce from him imaginably hard. Imaginably hard. Unimaginably hard. Anyways, I mean, you mean getting one, Bijou? Because I can't imagine that she was literally legitimately married to him and was probably forced into some kind of strange relationship so he could pretend like he had a marriage. Clearly, he's not capable of having one if he was raping that many people and beating them up. And by rape, I don't mean like, sexy boom boom time gone away. I mean, out punching people in the head and sodomizing them and, wrecking them, tearing them up, and breaking body parts, maybe even dismembering people. So, I don't know, some of the stuff in the press releases to try to cover up the material or what people would actually have said is just kind of ridiculous. Like, let the woman say what she wants to, like that she was in a forced relationship and that she struggled to get out of it, that she was a slave of some kind. Like, let her tell the truth. It's just dumb. Anyways, finally, Cindy Crawford has now come forward and said that Oprah Winfrey treated her like property. And I want to just know, do you remember in the 90s when Cindy Crawford tried to work with Oprah on some projects? They did some shows together. Cindy Crawford was supposed to take over and teach everyone how to do makeup. I learned how to do makeup from Cindy Crawford. I totally learned makeup tricks from Cindy Crawford. It was a great show. But I did note that Oprah Winfrey completely flipped the F out during the show and had a really hard time letting Cindy Crawford work with her on it, even though they had a partnership to actually make money off of products related to the show. So what Cindy Crawford's saying is that Oprah Winfrey was essentially really abusive and controlling to her and treated her like a piece of property, which kind of clears it all up for the rest of us because I couldn't figure out why Cindy Crawford was putting up with that in the first place. And with that, I'm going to end the show with this. It's a happy cat. Window clings, wall clings you put up for Halloween, like really cute little cats. It cost me like almost nothing, but it's the cutest thing ever. See, like this one right there, that's the cutest one. And that one's really cute too. Actually, they're all really cute. They're really cute little happy cats. Anyway, so I sort of have something kind of lighthearted, but keep an eye on the Federal Reserve meetings today and the results of that. It'll tell you a lot about what's going on, if you even care anymore. And I'm going to finish the show by singing Tracy Chapman's song that I sang earlier this summer called Fast Car. You got a fast car. I want to take it to anywhere. Maybe we make a deal. Maybe together we can get somewhere. Any place is better. Starting from zero, got nothing to lose. Maybe we'll make something. Me, myself, I got nothing to prove. You got a fast car. And I got a plan to get us out of here. Been working at the convenience store. Managed to save just a little bit of money and won't have to drive too far. Just cross the border and into the city, and you and I can both get jobs and finally see what it means to be living. You see, my old man's got a problem. He lives with the bottle, that's the way it is. And he said his body too overworking. His body's too young to look like his. And my mom went off and left him. She wanted more from life than he could give. And I said somebody's gonna take care of him. So I quit school, that's what I did. You got a fast car. Is it fast enough so we can fly away? And we gotta make a decision. We leave tonight and live and die this way. Cause I remember when we were driving Driving in your car at speed so fast, I felt like I was drunk. City lights lay up before us, and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged, and I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. You get a fast car. We go cruising, entertain ourselves. Still ain't got a job. Now we'll work in the market as a checkout girl. And I know things will get better. And you'll find work and I'll get promoted. And we'll move out of the shelter. Buy a big house and live in the suburbs. Cause I remember when we were driving in your car at speed so fast, I felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us, your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder, and I had a feeling that I belonged, and I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. You get a fast car, and I get a job that pays all our bills, and you stay out drinking late at the bars, leave more of your friends and do your kids, and I was hoping for better, thought maybe together you and me find it, and I got no plans, I ain't going nowhere, so take your fast car and keep on driving. Cause I remember when we were driving in your car at speed so fast, I felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us, and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged, and I had a feeling that I could be someone, be someone, be someone. You get a fast car. Is it fast enough so you can fly away? And you gotta make a decision. Leave tonight, live and die this way. And that was a thought project, just so you know.